Hey, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? How's it going? How you doing? Welcome back to the channel. So, in the spirit of the Netflix series, The Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance, I decided to go back and watch the original movie from the 80s. Now, I've actually seen a whole bunch of bits and pieces of the movie from, just various parts of my childhood. But to my knowledge, I don't ever recall actually sitting down and watching the entire thing in one whole sitting. So, watching it with my adult eyes in its entirety was an interesting experience, and wow. There's a lot of stuff to unpack about this movie because I have a lot of questions. And it's mainly to do with a lot of the backstory because, the very direct story is very simple. The immediate story is about a character that finds the shard of an artifact. And the character kind of goes on this quest to put that piece back where it belongs to complete the artifact and bring it back to its natural form. And as simple as that sounds, the rest of the movie, not so simple. Because the nature of the Dark Crystal is very, very, very mysterious, and I have all these questions because I don't know what exactly the function it is, or where it originated, or what it means, or there's so many things that you don't know about it. And not just with the crystal itself, but as far as a lot of other things in the movie, I have those same questions. Which is why I think the decision to make a series about this was a really good idea, because there's so much more in the mythology that you could expand upon. So much so that you could probably make a good 10 seasons worth of a show about all this material. But as it stands, the movie was meant to be a kids movie, so when you're doing the marketing campaign, you don't really need to explain all that stuff. However, at the same token, there's so much scary shit in this movie that I don't know why a kid would want to watch it. So it's really hard to take a good look at this movie because there's so much to unpack. And it's not a bad movie by any stretch, it's just very, very perplexing. And from a visual standpoint, I feel the same way about this movie that I felt about Avatar, because Avatar, they did things in that movie that I did not know were possible with CGI. Whereas in this movie, they were doing things that I didn't know were possible, but with practical effects. Like, all those sets, like, everything there is real. And I'm sure they used a little bit of green screen, but for all intents and purposes, like, everything you're seeing, like, that was actually, like, they built that shit. And because it's in a fictional universe, after all these years, the visuals still hold up, in my opinion. Granted, there's a few mobility issues with the fact that they had to use puppets, but at the same token, if you were to take a screenshot of literally any scene in this movie, there is something either interesting, there's something remarkable, or something that has the design that you haven't seen before. There is so much there for your eyes to see that it almost takes away from how kind of off and weird the story is. But the Dark Crystal kind of created these two main races, the Mystics and the Skeksis, and I'm not totally sure what the deal is with these two races of people. Because from a philosophical standpoint, I can understand the two races, like, in a sense that they kind of represent the duality of just life in general. Like, you could interpret them as representing positivity and negativity. They could be representing the dichotomy of good and evil. There's a whole bunch of different metaphors that you could potentially come up with them. Because what's also interesting is that those two races, one can't exist without the other. Like, whatever the number of the population is for one race, the other one has to be the same. So that whole aspect raises a whole bunch of weird questions. And also within the universe, like, what the function of these two races is. Like, I know one of them is, like, supposed to be evil and they're kind of, like, reigning over the land. But in essence, like, what does that really mean? Like, are they kind of like the hyenas from The Lion King? Like, just killing everything? Like, I don't understand how they can survive if everything is gone. Again, I have so many questions. And also with the Dark Crystal, I don't understand exactly fully what that is, but maybe you're not supposed to. That's also a possibility. Maybe the Dark Crystal is just supposed to be this kind of abstract thing where you're not supposed to know what it is, but it represents, like, nirvana or oneness, or maybe a version of God, potentially. There are literally infinite ways to interpret this, and that's kind of why I liked it. And I don't know if there's any part of this movie that is bad necessarily or good. It's just, it's different. It's like a mushroom or an acid trip in that way. Because one thing that I didn't really like about the movie is that the main character, Jen, who's, for all intents and purposes, he's an elf, or a gelfling, as the movie calls him. One of the Mystics is, like, his father figure, and I feel like his father figure could have told him what the Dark Crystal does, but instead, Jen has to kind of figure out where the crystal is, and B, what it does and where he has to go. Like, I feel like the one Mystic could have told him all this, so I didn't feel a sense of urgency when it came to him trying to save the world, I guess, because you get the sense that there's supposed to be some kind of sense of urgency about fixing up the crystal, but it didn't feel like that with the way the movie was paced. And also, this is all happening because of a prophecy, and the prophecy is, like, foretelling something about the Great Conjunction, and that isn't fully explained either, because it's described as the Skeksis taking over power even more so than they already have, but also the Mystics still have to survive in order for the Skeksis to survive, so maybe they'll be eradicated. I'm not totally sure. Again, not everything was fleshed out. But yeah, overall, guys, I really don't understand how to, like, categorize this movie or give a rating to this movie, because this movie is without a doubt a visual achievement. This is something very, very special to witness. witness. But it's like I say, it's very similar to an acid or a mushroom trip, and I'm one of those people who doesn't believe that there is such a thing as a good trip or a bad trip, just an experience, and it's something different than like the reality that you're used to. And that's the closest metaphor I can come up with for this movie, but if I really had to give it a rating out of 10, I think I would give it somewhere in the 7.4 to 7.8 range, because as a movie, it'll do what it's supposed to do, and that is to entertain you. But how you take in that entertainment and analyze and interpret that entertainment, that's a really interesting question. But yeah, guys, please, if any of you have seen this movie or know anything about it, please leave a comment and let me know how you feel, because this movie is really something else. And as always, guys, if you like this video, give me a like, subscribe, share, hit that bell, do all that other happy horse shit that YouTubers tell you to do, and I will catch you guys later.